Hey, today I am doing a question and answers video to answer some of the really common questions that I get from you guys. I posted on Instagram and YouTube asking everybody what questions they had for me, what things they wanted to know about me and my thru hike. And today I'm gonna try and answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. So we're gonna jump right in. I kind of grouped all of the questions by category, and the first category is all about the trail. And a lot of the questions you guys have about the trail were actually about the people on the trail, which I thought was interesting. So first question is, how many people are you seeing on the trail if you stop for 5 minutes? Would somebody pass you? It really depends on where I am on the trail. So the most popular places were Georgia and the Smokies, especially in Georgia. That was honestly probably the most popular section because I think a lot of people section hike there and do weekend hikes. It's the start of the trail, and so it seems like a more popular place for section hikers in my experience so far. And then the Smokies is a national park. It's a really iconic part of the trail, and so I think also that's a very popular place to section hike. I was there on a weekend too, so I saw a lot of weekend hikers in the Smokies. I wasn't hiking in the bubble, and so I wasn't with a ton of people. I would camp with anywhere from 2 to 12 people per night, depending on where I was on the trail again. As for if I stopped for 5 minutes, would somebody pass me? No, probably not. That's not enough time. The trail isn't that busy that there's like a constant line of people, especially where I was at on the trail. Maybe if I sat down and took 30 minutes to an hour long break, sometimes people would pass me. I would spend some days just hiking on my own, seeing very few people, but it was pretty rare to have a day where I just didn't see anybody else all day. Have you met anyone on the trail that's made you feel uncomfortable or unsafe? Honestly, I haven't had a lot of experiences like that. I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or if there's a lot of fear mongering around the trail, especially being a solo woman on the trail. I had one experience where I felt unsafe on the trail, and I go into that at the end of my day 10 video. So if you're interested in the details, I would just go watch the end of that video to see what actually happened. But essentially had somebody at a shelter who was on some kind of drug and was just behaving erratically and was unpredictable, and it was just a little scary, but luckily I was with a group of people and it ended up being fine. But I think that's the only time I ever actually felt unsafe or afraid on the trail. Other than that, I've had some people make me feel uncomfortable, sure. I mean, that happens whether I'm on the trail or not, just in life. But the vast majority of people on the trail do not make me feel uncomfortable. Like, I just don't feel that way. It's not really a concern while I'm out there. Like 9.5 out of 10 people are amazing and don't make me feel uncomfortable. So yeah, I've had a couple weird experiences, but it's way, way outweighed by the good experiences I've had. Is it hard to sleep near different people all of the time that you don't know? I think in the beginning this was a lot harder. I remember it feeling weird the first few times when we would set up the tent, we being me and Christina, when we did the first 4 days together. We would set up the tent near other tents, and our first night at the Stover Creek shelter, we set up the tent away from the shelter, and we didn't even go to the shelter to say hi to the other people that were there, which is funny because they ended up being a part of my trail family later on, and they commented on how antisocial we were that night for not talking to them in the shelter. But it's just a different experience. I'm used to backcountry backpacking where I'm not camping around other people. You know, you see people, you're friendly with them, but you're not really like cooking dinner with strangers on your backpacking trip. You're pretty isolated to whoever you went on the trip with, and so that part of the AT was just different. It's a little strange at first, but you get used to it. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that by the end of it, especially when I was sleeping in my tent. I just feel so comfortable in my tent, so I don't really care who is around if I'm sleeping in my tent. I would care if I was thinking about sleeping in the shelter. So if I got to a shelter and it was only strangers in the shelter, I wouldn't sleep in it. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. Not that there's anything wrong with it. People do it all the time. It's perfectly safe to do, but it's just not something I really felt comfortable with. So I usually wanted to know somebody else in the shelter. I think there was only one time I slept in a shelter without knowing anybody that was in there, and it was fine. What are the ages of most people hiking the AT? I would say it's definitely 2 distinct groups on the AT. You have people who are in their early 20s, recently graduated high school or college, and then you have people who recently retired. So they're in their 50s or 60s usually. And those seem to be the two most common groups you see out there on the trail. There are people of all ages kind of mixed in there, but it is a little more rare to find people in the middle. I'm 30, and so whenever I would meet people around my age, I would get pretty excited because, you know, we're in similar parts of our life, and I feel like we often have very similar reasons for being out on the trail. That's not, you know, I'm exploring because I just graduated school, or I've been wanting to do this my whole life and this is finally my chance. We are people like right in the middle who have somehow found a way in the middle of everything to make it happen. And so it's just really exciting. So everybody kind of exists. There's definitely a spread, but I think it is mostly early 20s and then 50s to 60s. Second part of this question is, what was my favorite section from Georgia to Virginia? And I would say in terms of beauty of the trail and views and all of that, I would say the Smokies. That's kind of a basic answer, but it's just the truth. It's such a beautiful section of the trail. It's the most rewarding in terms of views, and I loved walking through the pine forests, and it was just an entirely different environment compared to the rest of the trail. In terms of hiking, my favorite section would be Hot Springs, North Carolina to Erwin, Tennessee, because at that point I was feeling strong and capable. I was moving really easily, and the terrain was a lot easier also. It was a lot less like steep up, steep down, and kind of more gradual elevation. And that was really appreciated after so many miles of harder elevation. How did you avoid noro, and how do you manage your health? I avoided noro by washing my hands at least once every day, sometimes more than once, but always right before dinner, because that was when I was most often touching my food. So that was my biggest concern, was touching my food with dirty hands, eating it, getting sick. So I would wash my hands before dinner, and then throughout the day when I was eating snacks or things on the trail, I would do everything I could to not touch the food that I was eating. So if I was eating a bar, I would fold over the wrapper and hold the wrapper while I'm eating whatever the snack is. Or if I'm eating, like, I would get Nerds clusters and put them in a sandwich baggie. I would kind of fold the sandwich baggie up and eat them right out of the bag instead of like going in with my hands. So it was, a lot of that is like avoiding letting my hands touch my mouth or my nose or anything, because they're just dirty. It's hard to keep them clean. Another way I avoided noro was not being in the bubble. I think that's actually probably really key. As for managing my health, kind of the same thing. My biggest concern on the trail really is just getting sick, and so keeping my hands clean is how I avoid that. And then managing my autoimmune disease is mostly just done at home via my infusion treatment. So I go home every couple of months, just like this trip. I get my infusion. It's good for a couple months, so I'll be able to go back on trail for a couple months until I come back, and then otherwise it's just taking naproxen to manage any residual joint pain that I might have, but I haven't really had much of that on the trail, which has been awesome. Have you encountered a rattlesnake? Not on the AT yet. I'm sure that my time will come. What are your top 3 favorite viewpoints on the trail so far? This was a hard question to come up with answers for, because there's just been so many amazing viewpoints, but if I had to choose 3 favorites, number 1 is Roan Highlands, partially because that was just such a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to get that view, but also it was just amazing to see so far on the trail, both where the direction that I came from and the direction I was going, and to see all of the balds I was about to go over, and then being able to see the Tennessee side versus the Virginia side, and also looking south and seeing how much bigger the mountains were than what I had ahead of me in the north side. That was just a really awesome place. So beautiful. I got up there and I got to see some amazing wildflowers too. I was there on a super clear day. It was wonderful. Number 2, I would say the Shuckstack Fire Tower in the Smoky Mountains National Park. I climbed up there and had 360 views. It was my first time getting a 360 view on the trail, and I could just see everything. It was so many mountains. It was just beautiful, and being able to see it through the fire tower windows kind of even added to the effect. It was just, that was really pretty. And then my 3rd favorite view, I'm gonna say, is Charlie's Bunyan, because it was just a beautiful view. It was fun to climb up on the rocks. I had a little snack with the view, and you kind of walk around this ridge and you keep getting peaks back out into that same view over and over as it's changing. And I was like watching Charlie's Bunyan get farther and farther in the distance. That was really cool. But I'm sure there are so many other views that could compete with all of those and that I'm just forgetting about. An honorable mention would be the view on Springer Mountain, just because that's kind of sentimental. It was my first view, it was the first white blaze, and it was just a special moment. Are you thinking about hiking another trail after the AT? Yes, I want to do all of them. I kind of expected that I was gonna like through hiking, and I would like to do more of it after this trail. It's a big goal of mine to Triple Crown one day, hopefully, so that would be the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. But I also am interested in smaller trails. I think the Florida Trail would be really fun one day once I get over my fear of alligators. The Long Trail looks beautiful. The Colorado Trail, the Oregon Coast Trail. I want to do shorter ones like the Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier. Yes, I plan on doing a lot of trails after this one. If I had to guess what my next hike would be after the AT would be, it's probably going to be either the Oregon Coast Trail because it's so close to my home, or the Colorado Trail because it's another relatively shorter one that can be done in like a month. I'm gonna focus on finishing the AT first before I start thinking about future through hikes. But the answer is yes, I absolutely do plan to do that. A couple people wanted some tips and tricks before hiking the AT or going on a backpacking trip. And I would say my two biggest tips for starting would be to strength train. That was a lesson that I've obviously learned the hard way. It's why I'm home, is because I didn't really do any kind of serious prep before I got on the AT. I've never been consistent about weight training or strength training. That's basically how I ended up injured, is I have weak hamstrings, glutes, quads, calves, and my knees and my ankles compensate for that. I've had this problem previously with running, or I've had bad shin splints or knee problems and foot problems, and it's just because I'm jumping into training, jumping into a lot of running, or on the AT jumping into a lot of hiking, and not doing any additional training to strengthen my muscles that are supporting my joints and my tendons and all of that fun stuff. So as not fun as that is to hear, strength training is like my number one tip. Nobody's gonna listen to that. I didn't listen to it either, but maybe one person. That is so important. That's like the number one thing that people seem to have problems with on the trail is injury, and a lot of injuries that are on the trail could be avoided by strengthening your muscles, preparing your body for the damage that you're about to do to it. And then besides that, it's just getting to know your gear, and I think the best way to do that is to just go on a shorter trip, go on a weekend trip somewhere, get all your gear together, test it out somewhere that feels safe and comfortable, and see what gear you actually use and need on the trail. And that way you're getting comfortable with the things that you're bringing, you know how to use everything, how to set it up, how to pack your bag, what it feels like to carry that on your pack before you're jumping into this crazy goal of a through hike, basically. That'll also figure out what you need in your bag. I think the way to make your hike as easy as possible is to eliminate as much unnecessary stuff from your pack as possible. That's just the way it is. As the lighter your bag is, the easier your through hike is gonna be to an extent. The next category of questions is about my fears, basically. First question is, are you more worried about bears or sketchy people? Sketchy people, all the way, through and through. I mean, bears are afraid of me. People are unpredictable. Do you worry about anybody seeing you when you have to go to the bathroom on the trail, or getting lost after a potty break? It is something I worry about, and I have been caught peeing on the side of the trail. It was somewhere in Tennessee. It was an emergency. I wasn't gonna be able to make it the standard 200 feet off the trail or whatever it is. And so I went like 3 trees back. As soon as I I checked to make sure no one was there. And then the second I squatted down, I checked one more time to make sure no one was there, and 2 guys walked past right as I looked back. And they said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I apologized that they had to see that I was so close to the trail. It was like, it was an emergency, I'm so sorry. It was totally fine, but pretty embarrassing for me. And luckily they were section hikers and they were getting off the trail that day. So I never actually had to see them again, but they were very nice about it. And most of the time that's not a concern because I'm not peeing right next to the trail. That was kind of an anomaly. Ideally you're, you know, tucked back where people can't see you, and so it's not so much of a concern. And just like everything with the hike, after a while you just stop caring about certain things, and that's just not something that I particularly care about anymore. And getting lost is always a concern, which is why I don't take my fanny pack off, and in my fanny pack I always keep my phone, which has navigation on it. And so worst case scenario, I get turned around while I'm out there, hopefully my phone can guide me back to the trail. But I try to be really intentional about where I'm going, walk in a straight line. Like, I only get off the trail if there's a very clear, straight path that I can take to go do my business. I don't want to take a whole bunch of turns basically to get out there. What is your biggest fear on the trail and what has given me the most joy? So my biggest fear on the trail definitely used to be bears. I mean, I talked about that so much in my first few videos. Even looking back on them, it's really interesting to realize how worried I was about it. And then I had a couple encounters, they ran away, they were scared. I realized it's actually not that big of a deal. Yeah, now I would say it's people, I guess. And I guess my biggest fear is camping around people who are not actually through hiking the AT. I don't know, I guess I'm specifically talking about camping near roads where there's just really easy access to the trail, and so people might go there to party and things, and that's not necessarily something I want to be around, especially when I'm alone, like I'm not hiking with anybody or I don't know anybody else that's gonna be at camp that night. Mostly it's just because it's unpredictable, I don't know what's gonna happen, and I just don't really feel safe in that scenario. So I just avoid camping close to roads, essentially. My rule is to be at least 3 miles away from a road. It's even better if it's up a really steep hill that's hard to climb. And I would say my biggest joy being on the trail is just every time I remember what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how cool it is that I'm doing it, especially when I remember all of the years I've spent dreaming about doing this thing and then just realizing like I'm actually doing that thing right now. It just makes it feel exciting all over again. Do you feel safe hiking alone as a young female? Honestly, yeah, I feel fine. It's not a thought that I really have all of the time. The main times that I think about the fact that I'm a young woman alone on the trail is thinking that I might have to camp near a road. There's a little fear of just who's gonna be there. Is somebody gonna be living in that shelter or at that tent site, and what are their intentions? Are they gonna leave me alone? Or if I'm at a campsite by myself, basically a man or a group of men come around, are they gonna be nice? If they're not, are they gonna leave me alone? Like, is that something I'm gonna have to deal with? So there's like a little bit of fear there of like kind of trying to suss out if a situation is safe, but for the most part, it's just not a problem. It's not something I think about all the time. Most of the time I'm with other people, I'm hiking by myself during the day, but I do that all the time. That's not something that's ever really been fearful for me. I'm camping with people that I know almost every single night. Every once in a while I'll hike by myself, but most of the time I know at least one person who's going to be at camp, and so that eliminates any fear that I might have of being alone and potentially vulnerable. Yeah, I would say it's safe. I'm around a lot of people, I'm around towns, I'm in frequent communication with the people I care about, and I've done a lot of things to ensure my own safety and make sure people know where I am, when I'm there, all that fun stuff. So yeah. Next category is money. First money question, are hostel nightly prices pretty similar? Are they big differences? And then what's the average price? I would say the hostels all cost pretty much the same amount, and the average is usually between $30 and $40 a night. There are obviously outliers. I've stayed at a hostel that was $20 a night. That was awesome. I've stayed at another hostel that was $60 a night. It was worth it, but that is a little pricey. I wouldn't want to pay that every night on the AT. Usually if you have to pay for a shower or laundry separately for something, it's almost always $5. Like, so far on the trail for me, prices have been pretty consistent. I'm curious to see how that's going to change as I get up into New England. What is your budget on trail, and has that changed at all with a bit of supplemental income from YouTube? So my original budget going on the trail was $1,300 a month. That was mostly to match my budget before I got on the trail to make my life easier. The total amount per month seems accurate for what I've been spending, about $1,300 a month. As for my budget changing with supplemental income from YouTube, I actually haven't started making money from YouTube yet, but I hope to in the future. Allegedly, I will start soon from my ads, and so that'll give me a little bit of income while I'm on the trail, which will help, but I don't plan to change my budget or my spending habits based on any money that I make from YouTube. The goal with that money is just to take less money out of my savings, essentially. I do want to add that I plan on making a video after I complete my through hike where I will go over in detail how much money I spent on my through hike, and so I'll go over everything, break it all down by category, and we'll get a total number as well. So look forward to that in the future if that is something that you're interested in. Next category is all about gear. I had lots of questions on gear. This one is, what is the thing that you wish you brought on your first day, and if you could ditch something right now, what would you ditch? So something I wish I brought on my first day is a fanny pack. I had an inkling I might be interested in a fanny pack when I started the trail, but I thought I could get by with keeping my phone and things I needed to reach quickly in my hip belt pockets, and then I had a little case that I kept my GoPro in that I strapped to my shoulder strap. I thought that it might be okay because that's what I do on weekend trips, but it was mostly the GoPro dangling on my shoulder that made me really want the fanny pack. And I'm so glad I did, because it's so much easier to access my GoPro, my phone. I don't have anything hitting my shoulder when I'm hiking, and then I can also put my sunscreen and my chapstick in there. So I wish I would have just started the trail with that. I think I got that like 8 or 9 days in. Something that I would ditch right now if I could would be my tent, and the only reason I'm not is because that's a really expensive change to make, and I want to make sure that I make the right choice. My current tent is just heavy and I still get wet inside of the tent. I think maybe the splash guard could be higher, or if it's just the way you pitch the rain fly over it, but I get splashed by rain. If it hits the ground too hard, it like hits the ground and then splashes up through the mesh. And then also I'm having trouble controlling condensation. It's like I just can't vent it enough. But mostly it's just heavy and a little larger than I really need it to be. I also got questions about the gear I started with, what I liked, what I didn't like, and if there's anything that I'm planning to get rid of soon. I would say the piece of gear that served me best is the cleaning attachment that goes on my Sawyer water filter. I actually got this while I was on trail, and it's just this little plastic cleaning attachment. It goes on the clean water side of your Sawyer filter, and then I attach this side of the filter to my knock bag that has the dirty water. I screw the smart water bottle almost all the way, but leave a little bit of room for air so the gravity filter can work, and then I just hang it from a tree, and this just lets the water drip into my water bottle. I don't have to like sit there and squeeze my bag to filter my water. It's not an involved process. I can just set up my water to filter and eat my snack on the side of the trail or start cooking my dinner at camp. So it's such a silly piece of gear, but life-changing, absolutely. Best piece of gear, has served me the best on my through hike so far. It's saved me so much time. And then Flat Pick Sun actually 3D printed some of these little covers, because this is still like exposed and I kind of keep it in my side pocket, so I don't want like dust and dirt and stuff to get in there. So he 3D printed these little things that just screw in there to keep it secure. I thought that was nice. Other than that, everything I started the trail with I had used before. I knew I liked it, and so I don't know that there was really anything at the beginning of the trail that I brought that was absolutely unnecessary or I didn't love in some way or another. Other things I'm thinking about changing, I'm considering trying umbrella life. I just feel reluctant, but I might try that at some point on the trail. I don't know. I think I just need to do more research, because I love my poncho, but the one thing I don't like about the poncho is the hood going over my ears and it's rustling and I can't hear what's going on around me. Yeah, that's something I'm thinking about trying. We'll see. One change that I am making is my food storage system when I go back on the trail. So I had my food in my backcountry exposure bag. I ended up sending that home because it was too small, and then I was using the Sea to Summit 12-liter Ultrasil bag and doing a bear hang every night, or putting that in a bear box when one was available. I'm really tired of doing a bear hang, guys. So I'm doing something kind of controversial, and I'm going back with the bear can. So this is a huge change into my gear and has kind of changed a lot of things that I'm bringing, because I'm trying to justify bringing an additional 2 pounds 4 ounces, I believe is how much this weighs. And so I've cut weight in like as many tiny ways as I possibly could. I'm not bringing stuff sacks anymore for my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad. I'm dumping the pump sack for my sleeping pad. I'm just gonna blow it up myself. I did have a knife, which is pretty heavy. This is like 4 ounces or over 4 ounces. And then I had metal tweezers. So I had both of these. I'm now just gonna bring a single Swiss Army knife that has a knife, a whole bunch of other things too, like I can open a bottle of wine now, but this also has a set of tweezers on it, so kind of reducing things in that way. Just tiny little changes like that to justify this heavy bear can. I've decided to switch to the bear can because there's a lot of mental effort that goes into a bear hang and finding the right branch. Sometimes you get to a campsite and there's not a good branch because there's not always the bear cables set up for you to hang your food or a bear box for you to put your food in. And sometimes when there is a bear box, there are holes in the corners because they rust out because they're metal, and then mice can crawl in and still chew through my food bag. A mouse can't chew through this, so this solves a bear problem, but most importantly, a rodent problem is mice and squirrels and raccoons and stuff can't chew through this to get my food, and that honestly is kind of a bigger concern than bears on the AT. So this will just give me a lot of peace of mind. I can get to camp at any time because finding a place to put my bear can it'll take like 5 minutes, you know, to put my bear can away, versus I would need like sometimes 30 minutes or more to hang my bear hang because it would take me so many throws to get it up, and I had a couple close calls where I almost lost my paracord to the tree. There was just a lot of fear for me on finding a place to put my food or not having a good place to store my food and getting my food stolen by an animal. And so I just don't want to deal with that fear or that mental load anymore. I don't want to be so controlled by my food because I would sometimes use it to choose where I was going to camp that night. I would push a little bit farther or not walk as far as I thought I could because I wanted to camp somewhere that had built-in food storage, and I feel like it was limiting me in a lot of ways, and this will just reduce so much stress. This is definitely the biggest gear change that's happening. Controversial, but I think for me, this is a really good choice. One other thing I'm getting rid of in my bag because of the bear can also is my Nemo chipper sit pad. This weighs 7 ounces. I used it as just a dry place to sit. It's insulated. It's a little softer than some of the places you have to sit on the trail, but if I have the bear can, this is a seat. It's a great stool, so I'm not gonna carry the sit pad and the bear can. So that's something I'm changing. Yeah, like I said, I'm interested in replacing my tent. I just want to make sure that I'm making a good investment. So my plan when I get back on the trail is to really look at other people's tents, see all of the ultralight tents in person, and maybe find some people that'll let me like sit inside of it or tell me what they do and don't like. And I can also see how specific tents have fared over several hundred miles on a thru hike, and then I'll use that to make my decision and maybe have a tent sent to me at some point on the trail. I just want a lighter tent, and a slightly smaller tent is the main thing. My current tent is 40 ounces, which weighs as much as my new bear can. So, one other thing I'm interested in replacing is my Smart Wool quarter zip base layer. So it's the thing I wear at camp when it's a little chilly. I could hike in it, haven't needed to yet, but it's just a merino wool zip up shirt. I want to switch to something that's a little looser and has a hood, and I've been looking at the Alpha 90 hoodies. So I want one of those. I just can't find one online in a color that I like, so that's the main thing I'm waiting for. I'm hoping maybe at one of the outdoor stores on the trails I'll see one, and then I can send my Smart Wool quarter zip home, but that will shave like 3 to 4 ounces off of my pack also, and just be a lot cozier. Only other piece of gear I've changed is my shoes. I've talked about that previously, but I was most recently hiking on the AT in Topo Traverses. I am going to go back to the AT in Brooks Cascadia 19s. I have hiked in them a couple times, and I went on the backpacking trip this past weekend in the Brooks Cascadias. I loved them. They're super comfortable. They honestly might be the shoe that I continue to buy for the rest of the thru hike because it just fits so well. What piece of gear have you surprisingly used the least / most? I would say surprisingly the most. I've used my Nalgene canteen. I'm surprised at how much I used that on trail. So my Nalgene canteen is like a little 32 ounce soft bladder, and I brought it specifically to pee inside of my tent. And I thought I was mostly gonna use it like as an emergency or every once in a while when I don't want to get out of my tent at night. But I actually used it almost every single night. I'm surprised like how much I used that and how useful that actually ended up being. Surprisingly used the least is my InReach. I wasn't expecting to use my satellite phone very often, but I thought that it would feel more necessary than it has. Like I thought I would need to use the satellite capabilities more than I have. Before I got on trail, I upped my plan to one that gives me up to 50 free messages or weather checks per month, and I think The month before I got off trail, I used 4 of those, 4 of the 50. So most of the time I have service on the trail, I guess is what I'm saying. So the satellite phone is still nice. I'll continue to bring it because it's great to have for emergencies. It has the SOS button if I ever need that. And I can still text people and check in with people when I don't have cell service, but I was just surprised at how much cell service I actually had on the trail. All right, it's day 2 of this. I had some stuff that I had to do yesterday. One other thing I wanted to say about my gear is that I did do a gear video where I go over every single item that I brought with me on the trail. There aren't a ton of details in that video. The point of that was more to show like what am I using to survive in the woods, but if you want to know the specifics, like the brand, the actual specifications of the things that I brought, linked in every single one of my AT videos is my lighter pack, which lists every single item that I'm bringing with me on the trail. And a lot of them I have links to the items, so you can actually go to the manufacturer's website or someone that sells it and actually see the details on the items if that's something that interests you. This next section of questions is about vlogging. A lot of you wanted to know about my approach to vlogging, what camera I'm using, what software I use to edit. So for my camera, I'm using the GoPro Hero 10. I have it on just like a short tripod, so when it collapses, it's probably about that tall, so it's nice I can get shots of me in the distance and stuff, not just me holding it in front of my face. And then software I use to edit my videos is CapCut. It's an app that I have on my phone, so I edit all of my videos on my phone. As for the workflow for editing, I have a little SD card reader that connects to the lightning port on my phone, so I can plug it into my phone, put the SD card in there, import the videos for each day onto my phone, and then I put them into CapCut, edit the video, and whenever I get to hostels pretty much, or anywhere with Wi-Fi, but usually it's hostels because I have the time basically to upload the videos, that's when I upload them to YouTube, and I kind of just do batch uploads and schedule them out into the future, so that way you guys continue to get your daily videos even though I'm out on the trail and might not even have service that day. That's kind of the brief version of how I edit videos. Maybe at some point I'll do a more in-depth video on like what that process actually really looks like in the nitty-gritty, but that's kind of the bigger picture. How much time does it take for me to edit a video? 30 to 60 minutes. Usually I try to do a video each night when I'm in my tent. That's not really the reality, but that's the goal because it only takes 30 to 60 minutes. What usually happens is I'll edit a video in my tent maybe every other day or every couple of days, and then whenever I get to a hostel, I spend a lot of time editing, and I can usually get like 4 or 5 videos made and uploaded when I'm staying at a hostel. The other part of this question is how is Christina doing? She's good. Christina, how are you? But the question is just, how is Christina doing? The people want to know.
I'm good. I am existing in this great state of Oregon. I'm alive, awake, moving around, doing a lot of biking, being active as usual. Yeah, enjoying the summer.
Yay! While we're still talking about Christina, somebody else wanted to know if she will come and hike with me again, and yeah, that's the current plan. We'll see how it all plays out. Things are a little different now that I'm doing my hike differently. I'm not just going straight northbound, I'm doing this flip-flop, but I think what we're still gonna do is summit Katahdin together. So that was the original plan, was we started the hike together. Christina came and joined me for the first 4 days of my hike to kind of send me off on my journey. And then she was gonna come to Maine and summit Katahdin and finish the hike with me as well and celebrate that moment with me. I think the plan is still that she's gonna come and join me to summit Katahdin, even though it's not the end of my hike anymore. And then we'll take some time off of the trail and go visit Maine, Acadia, spend some time together. That'll be close to our anniversary, so it'll be a fun way to spend that time together. And then from there, I'll travel back down and continue the hike. We've also talked about Christina joining for a section maybe in Virginia and the Shenandoahs where the hiking is a little easier and she has family nearby, but we're not sure if that's going to happen, but we have talked about it. It's just hard when you're in the middle of a thru hike having somebody come join you, because the more you're hiking on the trail, the stronger you're getting, the faster you're walking, the more miles you can do, and it can be hard to slow down, and it might not be super comfortable for somebody else to join in if they've not been kind of living and hiking under the same conditions as you. And I don't necessarily have a ton of time to slow down. So yeah, we'll see what we can make happen, but that would be really nice, and we'd both really enjoy that. Did any previous thru hiker inspire you to film not just the AT, but previous adventures? I do have a thru hiker that inspired me to film my Appalachian Trail thru hike, and that's Kelly Hayes. I loved her videos. I watched them live in 2021. She was the first AT vlogger that I ever watched, and I've watched one pretty much every year since then, because that was kind of back when I first learned about the AT, and I ran into that vlog immediately after discovering what the AT even was. Watching a vlogger every year has made me want to vlog my own hike and have my own memories in that way. So yeah, but as for my other adventures, no, I've always made videos and edited videos, and I find a lot of joy in it, and vlogging or filming my other adventures was kind of just a way to document the things that I've done and have that as a memory for myself, but also show my friends and family who don't backpack or do these things kind of what I'm actually doing with my free time, and share my experience with them in a more concrete way, I guess. This question is, what is the hardest part of hiking the trail for you? For me, the two hardest parts of hiking the trail is listening to my body and slowing down when my body tells me to slow down. Maybe not even that, but slowing down even when I feel good. Something I've been slowly learning and trying to make myself live by on the trail is what Wacky said forever ago. Wacky is another thru hiker on the trail. He said it's not about what you can do today, it's about what you can do every day. And keeping that mindset even on the days I feel really good and feel like I can push. Obviously, that's not great because it's leading to injuries and things, but yeah, that's kind of always just been hard for me in life, is slowing down, thinking long term. I just get really excited about something and I want to jump all in, and I feel good today, so I want to do a lot today, and then I pay for it tomorrow. And then the other hard part of thru hiking the AT is just being away from home and feeling homesick, especially being away from Christina. I talk about that kind of at length in my day 31 video, so if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that and what that feels like, I would go and check out that video. But yeah, those are probably the hardest parts for me. What has been the most impactful life lesson that the trail has taught you so far? I think the most impactful lesson for me, and I'm still learning it and embracing it, is asking for help, accepting help from people, and also just being open with strangers. There are a lot of times on the trail when you might have to rely on other people, or it just makes your life a lot easier if you rely on them. There's tons of people who offer help just out of the kindness of their own hearts and don't expect anything in return. They do it because they love helping, and I'm just a very independent, self-driven person, and it's always been hard for me to ask for help and accept help from other people. I don't know, I feel bad. I feel like I should be able to do it on my own, but it's kind of not what the AT is about. It's all about community and connecting with people and helping each other, and that means other people are going to help you too. And so allowing myself to be more open to that and willing to accept that help from other people has been a big growth point for me, because it's something I've always struggled with, and I think I am definitely getting better at it on the AT. And then sort of along the same lines is being open with people. What I mean by that is just kind of telling people how you really feel and being comfortable and willing to just put yourself out there and let people react the way they want to react. And maybe they accept it and maybe they don't. In the case of the AT, everybody just kind of accepts everything. It's such a cool community of people. You can just be whoever you want to be, and people just take you as you are, and it just feels like a very non-judgmental place, at least where I was at on the trail before. I'm learning you can connect with people really quick. A big part of that is just being open and accepting of others, but also being willing to let yourself be seen and known in that way. And yeah, the connections just kind of follow. It's really cool. What is the best part of hiking the AT and the worst? The best part by far is the people. It's the people on the AT are just incredible. Not just the people hiking it, the people who live and work in the trail towns, the people who run, the hostels, like the shuttle drivers, just everybody is just incredible. You really meet some amazing humans on the trail. I mean, Don't even get me started on trail angels. People go out of their way to be there for you, to help you. There's so much curiosity on the trail. Like, I stop and talk to people all the time on the trail. It's really cool. You just feel super connected to people and super present with people. I mean, you don't really have anything else to do besides hike, and so yeah, I think just being on the trail has given me a lot of hope in humanity, and I've always believed that people are good generally, but hiking on the AT has definitely confirmed that for me, that people are just awesome, and most of the time they want to do the right things. They want to connect with other people. They want to be kind. They want to help. They want to share. Yeah, that is just by far the coolest part. I know it's sometimes surprising to hear that, because you think you're through hiking, you're backpacking, you're camping, so you're in the woods and you're so secluded and you're by yourself, but you're actually around people all the time. And I think for the Appalachian Trail specifically, the trail community is a huge part of the experience. Like, this is just not a trail you go to if you want to be by yourself and be secluded in the woods. You're gonna be around other people and connect with them. And I think that that's an incredible thing that is worth embracing. The worst part about hiking the AT for me has been food storage, food protection. I feel like that's kind of just been a theme if you've watched my vlogs regularly, is kind of fighting with bear hangs, finding a place to hang them, or needing a campsite with food storage. When you start the trail in Georgia, every single shelter and campsite has cables that you can hang your food from. A couple of them have bear boxes that you can put your food in, so you don't have to worry about throwing your paracord into a branch or whatever. It's all provided for you. And then you hit North Carolina and you just get the biggest reality check, because there's no pre-provided food storage until you get to the Smokies, I think. Some nights that's really stressful. It changes what time I want to get to camp. Sometimes I need a lot of time to hang my bear bag because the branches aren't good. I need to search for one, or the one that is available is really high and I'm struggling to get my rock bag with the paracord over the branch. I've had close calls where I've almost lost my paracord in the tree. One time my entire food bag got stuck up in a tree, and I had to have another thru hiker help me. We took a giant branch and kind of poked my bag with a stick until it fell. And so just a lot of fear, I guess, around food and losing my food that was really weighing on me. And it's not even just bears and bear hangs, it's also mice and rodents. If it was dark outside, like it's really early, and I had my food bag sitting out, you can't just leave your food bag on the ground unattended. Even for a couple of seconds, like a mouse is gonna crawl up to it and start trying to chew through it. So that was just my biggest nightmare and headache on the trail, and that is all of those reasons are why I'm switching to the bear can now. That was the worst part, the most stressful part, and it's just not necessary. I can do something to change it, so I am going to do that and eliminate all of that stress. This last question is just for fun. Would you rather replace one of your thumbs with a pinky finger or a pinky toe for a big toe? And I'm gonna say that I would rather trade one of my pinky toes for a big toe, because I cannot imagine losing a thumb. Like, I know the pinky is not going to be able to do what the thumb can do. I mean, 2 big toes, like, you probably have really good balance, and you just have to get bigger shoes. Okay, I think that's almost every single question that I got. So hopefully if you asked one of those questions, you got what you wanted out of it, or you learned something new. I am super excited to get back on the trail. I'm doing kind of the final things right now to make it happen. So I will see you guys very soon, probably in a couple weeks, with my day 45 vlog. I'm super excited. I hope you are too, and I will see you then. Bye!